kidnapped, walking the scene with you in old flicks from the 90s. So keen, the VHS Club, they're the talk of the town, breaking it down, spreading nostalgia all around, moving and grooving to the synth-pop sound. Their insight so fresh, painting pictures profound, from Pulp Fiction to Clueless, they know it all. The genuine love from movies stands strong, unfolding memories on that VHS screen, talking about classics like you've never seen. Katie with her charm, Matt with that wit, together they make the VHS Club legit.
Welcome back to the VHS Club. How's it going, Nat? I was gonna do
I
that.
am alive.
No. We're a little silly tonight. We're a few minutes late here. Thanks to everyone for your patience. I'm on location, and normally I bail out on episodes when I'm traveling, but I'm coming to you live today from Woodstock, Illinois, which is the home of Groundhog Day. And I had Mike showing me all around, and I was making Nat jealous with all kinds of photos. And I thought, what the heck? So I'm here in the world's largest hotel room. I think this is the biggest hotel room I've ever been in, with very crazy carpet, and everything is a little bit crazy. So
It looks like one of those corporate
yeah
hotels that a lot of people use during lockdown for business.
Yep.
Like they traveled to location, but were still in lockdown in hotels.
Yep.
There's a really great one in Ottawa. Total sidebar.
I'm on movie location. So this is from the town that brought you Groundhog Day. We're talking about Jaws. So feel free to go back and rewatch the Groundhog Day episode where Mike gives us a detailed tour of this entire town.
Yes.
But today,
Ironically, when you're at home, you're closer to Jaws than you are today on location.
Yeah, I'm actually failing at this though, because in the last couple of months, earlier this spring, my husband just got his pilot's license, and one of the promises he made was that when he got his pilot's license, he would fly us to Martha's Vineyard or Nantucket for
and
dinner.
You did.
And that was the joke where we were going to be glamorous. We were only going to go for dinner. Well, we ended up going for a few days, but I chose Nantucket instead of Martha's Vineyard. So I've also not done Martha's Vineyard yet. So there's, there's potential. Yet. Exactly.
So we'll do it again next year for Jaws 51st anniversary.
I know. Yeah. For the 51st anniversary. I know.
Who cares about the birthdays? We don't need the 50th anniversary. We're going to be the oddballs and do the 51st anniversary of every movie.
Exactly. Absolutely. We're all in for the weird anniversaries. Well, the challenge is that not to get too off track.
We don't look it up.
But yeah, A, we don't look it up. And B, this year in particular happens to be a giant anniversary year for a lot of movies that we have not yet done. So we're just going to be woefully behind in all of this. But
also movies that we have done, like Empire Records, Hackers.
Yep.
Two
Clueless.
of our favorite.
Yeah.
Clueless. Mm-hmm. Some of our favorite movies as kids.
Yeah.
It's their 40th.
Yeah. Back to the Future. It's a big anniversary for Back to the Future.
Yeah.
We should take a moment.
You know what? hoverboards and those freaking Nike sneakers. Where are they?
Yeah.
And I know they released the Nike sneakers like briefly for I think the
yeah.
30th
But
anniversary.
I don't
like,
have a pair, so I'm upset about it.
like, why are they not widespread, easily accessible every like nth anniversary?
Yeah.
Anniversary to the nth degree is what
Exactly.
I said because you know I'm enunciating to the nth degree, but Jesus Christ, what's happening
But
today?
we are winning today though, Nat, because it is technically like we're like
Jaws season.
it's Jaws season, right? It's Jaws summer. It's Jaws season. We're
Like,
in
if
July.
they tried to
we're
close
in
the
the 50th
beach.
anniversary. The beaches are open, and yet maybe some of
Yeah.
them should be closed. So yeah, we're winning. And I'm with Terrell here, who says that he's really upset that the Jaws ride at Universal Orlando is not there anymore. I know that's all.
That's ridiculous.
That's all I wanted to do, and it's not. Yeah,
I'm sorry, but like, at what point in history
Bring
did it
it
go
back.
out of fashion?
Bring it back. They change up the
My-
rides all the time, which is a huge.
No, I know.
bummer.
Well, they retire some
Yeah.
rides, and I remember when they retired Jaws because it was big news, and everybody was like, "What do you mean?"
Yeah.
Like, I don't remember there being any positive press to them retiring the Jaws ride. And they're like, "Well, it's such an old movie," and everybody's like, "But it's Jaws."
I know, exactly. Some should
What do
just
you
always
mean?
be there. Some should just always be there. Jaws should always be
Like
there.
Jaws.
Yeah.
Now
Yeah.
they're gonna feel shame, and they will bring it back because of
For
our
shame, for
of our
shame.
wee little podcast.
Exactly. Exactly.
Hey, Disney peeps,
Well,
bring back Jaws.
in typical Katie fashion,
Yes.
I am woefully ill prepared for this episode, but also over prepared for this episode because my
Yes.
kids have been begging me to let them watch Jaws for at least the last few months, if not before that. So
Before that.
we got really lucky because my brother-in-law was in town, and we have joked, I think on the show before, that he actually watched Jaws when he was like 2 or 3 years old and was told that
Yeah.
it was like, I don't know if he was told or he just assumed that it was like a nature documentary kind of thing. So
I'm pretty sure that we were also 2 to 5 years old when we watched this.
I
Just FYI.
I don't actually remember when I first saw this, but I definitely have seen this a number
I
of
was
times.
definitely. I think it was around the time my dad was like, "Hey, babies can swim instinctually, but the second they get closer to 1 year old, it doesn't happen. You just chuck the kid in the water
Yeah.
and they'll swim." He did. My mother was hysterical. It's a story in the family, but I'm pretty sure I watched Jaws like as a toddler at most. Like, my dad's like, "You got to learn about water."
Well, so now that I haven't seen it in a while, but I definitely have seen it a number of times, and I have to say, like, it. I hesitate to do this, but I'm just going to say it anyway. I think it's an okay family movie. Like, it's not.
It is.
It's not.
Absolutely.
Other than like a little bit of side boob at the very beginning, and like
I didn't even notice it.
Yeah, and
You
also,
told me, you're like, "Oh, Nat, there was like some side boob in the movie." I'm like, "Katie, I'm pretty sure the 80s were contractually obligated
Yeah,
in Hollywood to show female nipple in every movie."
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
there's-
I'm like, a little side boob is pretty PG.
There's like a skinny dipping scene of the original, like the first girl
Yeah.
that gets killed by the shark. And then it goes into like the main story. But other than that, and then obviously like the shark kills people. But I mean, my kids knew that the shark was going to kill people. So I don't know,
Yeah.
it holds up. And I think it was kind of a nice, as a horror movie geek, I will say that I thought it was actually like kind of a nice foray to see how my kids may potentially do with horror movies, because I have no one to watch horror movies with other than Nat, who is not
Right?
in my house.
Because
and
Dane will not.
Dane will not watch them. So I feel like this was a good, like, without there being like a mass murderer or being like really scary or super graphic, this was a nice way to see like if they could handle it, which I think they can.
I'm pretty
so.
sure your daughter is going to equally love serial killer movies as we did at
Yeah.
her age, because let's be honest. I mean, at her age, granted, we were taking out all the serial killer books from the library. It's a different age, but I'm like, there's no way she's not into it.
Yeah.
She loved this movie. Katie's like, I don't know if she's old enough to watch it. I'm like, she's fine. She watched My Girl last week. That's horrifying.
Yeah.
This is fun.
This is fun.
And finally, your kids get to know why every July 4, when we're at Lake Winnipesaukee and we're like, we're going to need a bigger boat, they understand it now.
They understand it now. Yeah, I know. This is the iconic line. I know. So
Did you know that was ad-libbed?
I mean,
that was not scripted. It was
makes
100% ad-lib.
It makes sense because the comical part of this movie is that well, there are many comical parts of this movie, but one of the things that's like immediately obvious as you're watching it is like there's this shark who is clearly killing people, and there's this like small town, police officer who is of course afraid of the water and is like not a local.
But he's from the big city.
He's from the big city. Yeah.
He's not a townie. He's not a local.
But so all of like
or islander.
The initial answer is that like all of the fishermen from the area are going to go out and kill this shark initially. So there's like all these boats, and the boats are like rowboat size, and you're like, oh, okay, friends, but like how are we going to pull this off? They're like maybe a little bit bigger than a rowboat, but
they're like not even fishing boats. No. There's rowboats.
No.
And there was some.
So like everyone needs a bigger boat.
And like some sailboats, like some like, and I mean like old school sailboats, like sunfish. You know, like the little ones that even I know how to rig. Which Jane's like, Natalie, you don't know how to rig a sailboat. I'm like, I know how to rig that little old one from like the 70s. I know how to rig that boat. That's the only thing I can handle. But I'm like, they're on these like miniature, like 4 children-sized sailboats, and they're like, we're gonna just be a whole bunch of vigilantes because there's a bounty of $3,000 to go and kill a shark.
Yeah. Of which my 10-year-old said, well, they're fishermen. They're not sharkermen. Like, they're not. They want to be sharkermen if that was a thing. but yeah, no, they are fishermen.
Like even as a kid and even now rewatching it, I was like, they killed the wrong shark. That poor shark was completely innocent.
Yeah,
the first one that they kill, the tiger shark had nothing to do with anything.
True.
Didn't eat a person.
It was a pretty big shark though. Okay, all right, wait.
Regardless, shark. Okay, I have seen maybe like one episode of Shark Week because I realized very rapidly that Shark Week is basically the same information reiterated and regurgitated with the same footage every episode, every day, every year. So it's not. Anyways, I know people are into Shark Week. So I know some things about sharks, but like sharks don't actually attack people often.
No.
Shark attacks are extremely rare, very rare, unless there is a reason. And that's what they imply in this movie, is that it's not like a tiger shark. It's not, a bull shark. It's not like any of the regular sharks. It's a great white. So interestingly enough, Spielberg got a lot of flack while making this movie by picking the great white as the big bad like villain shark of the movie, because it wasn't well known at the time. The movie made people aware of, like the general public aware of great white sharks. Before this, like nobody really knew what it was.
I mean, that makes sense. Like when
he started Shark Week.
When I think of sharks, I think of great white sharks, and when I think of great white sharks, I immediately think of this movie. So like I see that. It is funny. So I've, over the last few episodes, you and I have been running like ideas through ChatGPT to get some like fun questions and to make sure we don't miss anything important, right? And so the one question that it asked for this week, in addition to like the usual stuff that we already cover, was this idea of like, is this like, so obviously this is a shark attack movie. The plot is very,
it's a monster movie.
I assume all of you know the plot to this movie, but if you don't know the plot to this movie, there is a great white shark that is killing a whole bunch of people, off of what is actually supposed to be based on Martha's Vineyard, but it's called Amity Island, which should
Amityville Horror. Anything named Amity means that bad shit's gonna happen.
It's friendship, But the question that it asked, which I actually think is a really interesting thing for us to discuss, is does this movie feel more like a horror film, a suspense thriller, or a drama? Because you could probably argue
It's a
for
monster movie.
any of those things, though. Like, it covers, yeah, it's a monster movie. But I think
It's kind of like Godzilla and Mothra.
it is. But I think what's really like, I don't know, even in like rewatching it this time around, what I think is really special about this one is in the fact that they ended up not having a huge budget for this movie. So they actually cut out a ton of like practical effects that they were going to do. And so
that's because Jaws broke down, aka Bruce. His name was Bruce.
Yeah.
But the animatronic broke down often, so they had to cut a lot of scenes. And that's why actually there was so much ad lib. And there was so many scenes, like they're on the boat and it shows Richard Dreyfuss, Hopper playing solitaire and like all of these scenes, which actually ended up adding to the suspense.
Yeah, it makes
and
the movie
terror.
Exactly, which is what I think like it really like it is a little bit horror, but it's not fully horror, and it is a bit suspense but not it is really special, and the music in it and the kind of those moments of boredom do sort of lull you into a false sense of security. And then the music picks up and you're like, oh, the shark is somewhere. And the fact that you don't see him actually, I think, really helps this movie stand the test of time, because it's not as campy or gimmicky as it could have been if they had done all of those practical effects, because they would have immediately been dated certainly at this 50-year mark. But as Paul is saying here, like, Bruce, which is what they were nicknaming the shark. Bruce only had 4 minutes of screen time, right? And even in those 4 minutes of screen time, they did a pretty good job of having him look fairly realistic. Like, even again, 50 years later, it's still like, it still
his
holds
eyes, the teeth, everything, the regurgitation, the like, it all seemed very much what you would see of like real footage from Shark Week and other scientific. I'm like Shark Week and science in one sentence.
But the Shark Week, you guys. The Shark Week.
Like, it's not. I'm like, I know it's supposed to be more documentary kind of based on science and facts.
I do love, though,
it's comical.
Paul has this fact coming up, but director Steven Spielberg said that when he first read the novel, he found himself rooting for the shark because the human characters were so unlikable. They really are.
But okay, so I'm rewatching this and I remember thinking like how unrealistic it was that the police chief is like, oh, there's a shark attack. The coroner says, oh, this woman was ripped apart by a shark. Yeah. Let's close the beach. And some stupid politicians are like, well, that's gonna, let's protect the immediate short-term investment as opposed to saving human life. I'm like, that's so unrealistic.
It's so not.
And then in today's lens, I'm like, that's 100% what would happen like in an hour from now.
What struck me
crazy
as an adult watching this, and certainly now that I live in...
As a kid, I thought it was unrealistic. Yeah. I was wrong.
I agree. No, I agree with you. I think like as a kid, we were kind of like, what? Like, why, why would they not close the beach?
Save human life.
But as an adult, not only as an adult living in this particular time and also in this place of which I am not right now, but what is very, very true about places like Martha's Vineyard and Nantucket is that their entire economy is based on tourism. So but
how many tourists are you going to have?
A lot. They make an insane
I know,
amount of
but
money.
If there's a shark who is frenzied and just eating people, they will have zero tourism for the next 50 years if you don't close the beach.
I'm with you.
What's a week or two versus the next half century?
I would have definitely been the police officer in this situation. Better. I would have been better than the police officer in this situation. But
Richard Dreyfuss.
I do completely understand it in that very brief amount of time, like losing a week of business even is like insane to.
But it is so short-sighted.
Oh, 100%.
It is
and
so
money
short-sighted.
grabbing. Like it's
absolutely
short-sighted. Money grabbing.
That was one of the more jarring things rewatching it. I was like, I thought this was unrealistic and exaggerated for the point of the film. I thought
Yeah.
it was exaggerated to give us the whole, like, it introduced, so this whole insanity of like, let's pretend the sharks aren't real. Then it introduces the whole vigilantism
Mm-hmm.
with the reward. And I'm like, that's unrealistic. Totally not. Totally not. I mean, at least in my perception of where the movie takes place, I
Yeah.
think that would be very realistic. The amount of people that would get injured and dead, I think, would be equal to what, if not greater than what the movie portrayed.
Mm-hmm.
And initially I thought, I'm like, oh, well, they use that in the film context to introduce us to things like different fishing techniques and different marine biology type information, scientific information about sharks and how they exist. Like they introduce chumming, and then Richard Dreyfuss, his character, comes in and tells us like about the history and the biology that they think they know of sharks. And as the police chief points out, like, we don't know anything about sharks. They're like maybe what, like 3,000 years old, 5,000 years old. We have no idea. Like, which
Yeah.
the more we learn about the ocean, even today, or even like in the past 2 weeks, we're like, we don't know anything about it.
I
But
think that's what makes this movie like so this movie and this particular topic
yeah,
so appealing and fascinating to people is that
because we don't know.
it also feels like this is, even though you said it earlier and you're absolutely right, like this is a very, very rare thing. This is not like like a
Sharks don't literally attack people.
shark attacks are very, even when there are sharks like spotted and they actually close beaches down, the instance of a shark attacking someone is just so low, but it feels possible. Like
It's still terrifying.
it feels possible, and it's terrifying, and like the idea of it is so like creepy that it does
I would
make
leave.
it makes it like a
Fuck
crazy.
Martha's Vineyard. Fuck Amityville. I'm like, peace, guys. I'm going back to the mainland.
Let's talk about that for a little bit, right? Because like so the story goes that you have this police officer, and he's like
From New York.
He's from New York, and he's got a young wife and a young son, and they're barely being accepted by this very small community.
Well, I think
which makes
she's
a ton of
originally
sense.
an Irelander, no?
I don't know if I caught
Was
that
she-
actually. Maybe I don't know.
I think she was an Islander, and I don't know. She met this New Yorker somehow. I don't know. Anyways, they're there.
They're there, but they're clearly like not 100% accepted.
Yeah.
And so then this shark attacks, and like he does all of the right things, right? He's like, okay, like let's close the beach. He goes and gets signs. He like, you know, he
And then the
lets whole
city
team know.
council
And
is
then-
like, let's not do this.
And then they're like,
My
no.
bottom dollar.
And what's weird about it to me is like at this point, this guy who does not like the water and who's like very very afraid of the entire thing, and he's done like the ample research. He's got like his books out. He's like studied sharks at this point. Like he's like,
yeah, I'm
he's,
like, I'm
learning-
with him. I am doing
Yeah.
all the research.
And then he lets them like change. He lets them change his mind about it.
He concedes.
He
Yeah.
concedes. And but he doesn't just concede, he like concedes and takes his family to the beach. And I was like, okay.
I would
weird-
not let my kid in the water for anything.
Weird move. Yeah, like, and it's like it's okay because he's in like the bay, like lake area, and you're like,
The
but
pond?
but
I think they
what?
called it. No.
But what? Like why? Yeah, I don't know. I didn't get that part because there's like an entire scene before that where like, I mean, I guess it makes it scarier. So I understand why they had it in the
Yeah.
movie, but there's like this scene where like his son gets this boat, and his wife, after hearing about this brutal shark attack and like seeing how stressed her husband is, lets the son like play in the boat. She's like, well, it's okay because it's attached to the dock. Like, and you know, he's not going in the water. And then,
But then the kid takes it out in the pond, whatever the pond is. I'm assuming it's a bay,
yeah.
like on
Obviously,
the island.
obviously it's attached.
I'm assuming
in
it's
some
like a
way 'cause the
cove
shark
or a
gets
bay or
there,
whatever,
so,
but-
yeah.
But so the kid takes the boat out. Like, who? And granted, it was the 70s. Like, the kid totally didn't ask. I mean, like, It's not the
No, he does though, because he comes and is gonna go like into the ocean with it, and the parents are like, go to the bay instead. Like that's their concession, is that like they're not gonna
oh
let him in the
right.
ocean with all the other kids, but he can go to the bay with the
But it's not like it's the Great Barrier Reef around
Yeah.
frickin'
Nope.
Massachusetts, you know?
Nope.
Like,
Nope.
yeah, and I mean, granted, yes, we don't normally get sharks like that
Yeah.
in the northern
Massachusetts does.
East Coast.
Massachusetts
I
gets
was I was
sharks
gonna say
all like
normally up
yeah.
until climate
Yeah.
changed. I
Yeah.
don't want to trigger anybody, but it's not global warming, it's global warmed.
Yeah.
So this stuff is actually much more common, but recently.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't when the movie was made, that's for sure.
Yeah. Kathy's saying it. So let us know if you're hanging out with us in the live studio audience, or you're watching or listening later. Let us know. Did this movie ruin you for the beach? Did Jaws make you not want to go into the water? So Nat and I grew up
No.
like on lakes and ponds. So we were like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
whatever. We were in the water. There were no sharks there. But I don't know how I would have felt actually if I had lived at the ocean. I did like, even now I'm always kind of like, oh, maybe jellyfish, maybe sharks. I'm a little skeptical
Yeah.
about the whole thing.
When I went to Australia, Aussie, oi, 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 jellyfish was the thing that scared me the most.
Yeah. Yeah.
I went scuba diving, and I was really hoping to see reef sharks. They're like yay big. They're like a foot long, foot and a half long, and they're really, really cute. They're like little miniature sharks, pygmy sharks. I was like, oh, I want to see one. I did not, but saw lots of other stuff. Little Nemos, the little Nemo fish, the clownfish,
Yeah.
vicious little effers.
Mm-hmm.
They have like sharks, they have more than one row of teeth, and they're super territorial, and they draw blood if you get too close to their little coral reef. Yeah, that was surprising. But yeah, I don't know that I would like scuba dive where sharks could come in, like big potentially
Man-eating
predator sharks could come in, you know. Where I was in Australia was a very protected area on Whitehaven Beach, so it was like a nationally protected area and beach and stuff, and it's part of the coral reef, and like there's a huge barrier between what can get in and what, you know, so
Yeah.
safe.
Yeah.
But yeah. One thing I found super funny that I noticed at the beginning of rewatching the movie is they have a bonfire on the beach, which to me is just such like a movie thing from America. It's not real, because
real.
where we grew up here, you cannot have a bonfire on the beach because it's bad for the water, it's bad for the environment,
Yeah, but
and
this
for the
was
watershed.
70s. So.
I know, but even when we were kids, you were
Yeah.
not allowed to have a bonfire on the beach because it's bad for the water.
Yeah.
So it's like watching it as like, oh my God, that's such like an American movie trope. Like it's not real life. You don't have bonfires on a beach. You're not allowed to do that. Environment protection laws, says the Canadian, not obviously American. I know it's a real life thing that people actually do, just not here. We are super not allowed to do that.
Well, there's also, and this movie is actually like tying it back into the kind of the horror movie genre. It also opens with this
Oh,
idea
yeah.
of like, it's a bunch of teenagers being teenagers doing like what they're not supposed to be doing, i.e. having a bonfire on the beach, skinny dipping,
And they're drinking and
yeah.
skinny dipping.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, Josh is saying TV shows also have bonfires on the beach. All of us Canadians are baffled.
Yeah, we're not allowed to do that. Like I'm in Quebec and we kind of buck Canadian laws all the time here just because our politicians are generally dicks to the rest of Canada. But no, even that we're like super strict on. And we always have been my whole life. So it's funny to see that in a movie. It was like such a big important scene in this movie, the bonfire on the beach, because it sets the tone for the
Yeah.
movie. You know, like it's people are relaxed and they feel safe and they feel like they can get drunk here and no harm will come to them, you know, they're just so relaxed and so, you know, they can be inebriated. They can do whatever they want.
Which is already kind of bonkers to me. Like, I don't know. I like, maybe it's because of this movie or maybe it's because of other reasons, but I definitely grew up with being like, the ocean will kill you. Everything in the ocean wants to kill you.
Yes.
It's like the Australia of the world where like everything wants to kill you.
Yes.
I would never be drinking and then trying to go into the ocean of any kind. Like,
I mean, have I gone skinny dipping drunk in a lake? Yes, all the time. But it's just a lake, and the only thing we're scared of is, a probably fictional Loch Ness monster.
probably not going to attack you. No stories of a Loch Ness monster attacking people.
It's funny. So when the first girl gets, like, when she's being attacked and the first thing you see her get pulled down and she like jerks down under the water, the amount of times that our friends Adam and Chris did that to us when we were like
always like
preteens and teens in the lake, they'd swim deep under the water, like they'd dive down and then yank at your ankle and pull you under. And even though we always knew it was Adam or Chris, and then every time it's like we're scared every time it happened.
That's what makes this movie so fantastic. And I really would argue that like if this movie had worked out the way that Spielberg and the team originally wanted it, I do not think it would have been as successful as it is now. There's something about the like people being jerked under, about like just seeing like the fin or just honestly even just hearing the music change. That's
or just the blood
shock or the blood like in the water. I think that there's also something really like creepy and suspenseful in like the later scenes where it's just the three main characters who are on that boat. And as you said, like there's just this like there's something there's something very haunting and like terrifying to your core about the idea of just being like stranded at sea, and it like with this kind of like quiet doldrums, there's something hunting you. The shark keeps randomly coming up at places, and when they attach the barrels to him, like only seeing like the barrel coming around, so he's there, but you don't
know how big he is.
You don't know how big he is. And there is this moment that I want to talk about because
why does he go down in the cage? Who would do that? Who thinks it's gonna work? I was 5 and I'm like, this is stupid.
Before the cage, I want to talk about the USS Indianapolis because I think
oh my god, that whole scene was improv, by the way.
When I was
Shaw
a kid,
totally improv that.
When I was a kid, I think that this honestly like fully went over my head. Like I caught like the basis of like what they were trying to say. Like I understood the story of that he was telling. But as an adult and having like learned about that story in more depth and they actually discussed, when I was in Nantucket, they talked about that story as like one, just a really tragic like situation that had happened at sea, among others. There's obviously a bunch of others that are.
I mean, any time at sea is potentially very tragic because we have no control over that. But what
was crazy about that specific story is that this was a military mission. It was at the end of World War II. It was a secret mission, so no one knew where this ship was, or very few people knew where the ship was. And
Camp X kind of shit.
Yeah, and it had been involved with the atomic bomb, and so this ship ends up going down and sinking, and it was like hundreds of people that had died initially in the sinking of it. But then for huge period of time, all of the survivors were just like floating on like pieces of ship debris and like small rowboats, and gangs of sharks literally attacked and decimated that. Like, so
picked them off.
Almost all of the people, like there were so few survivors. I think it was like 100 something survivors out of like well over 1,000 people that went into the ocean that day.
If you think about it, it's just live action chum instead of being like dead fish carcasses and parts that they're tossing into the water. These are bleeding humans that fell out of the ship as it sunk. But it's just real life.
Those sharks, and forgive me, because I can't remember exactly what the type of shark was in that real life story, but those sharks like worked together in teams and like literally picked off these people. And so there's something I think like really creepy, and props to him for if this was an improv scene, that's incredible, because I think like the retelling
of it, Shaw told the story
In
about the
that moment.
Indianapolis was
Yeah.
improv. He
That's
just knew about it. He talked about it. That was 100%.
That's incredible because
ChatGPT told me.
it's a true story. It wouldn't have
Yeah.
been at that time. It would have been like not that far off from World War II to have been like very visceral for people. And the fact that it's like
Yeah.
this same situation of like you're stranded at sea, there's nothing that you can do, and sharks are literally coming at you. And if not the sharks, then you are going to drown, or you're going to die of thirst, or you're going to die of hunger. Like, I think like thinking about that alongside this like giant shark that is hunting these three men, there is just something really creepy about that like sits with you
I mean,
different. Like, in
That's
this
the
movie.
thing. That's the thing that Hopper in the movie. Is it Hopper or Hooper? Now I'm like, oh my God, Richard Dreyfuss.
Hooper. Yeah.
Hooper.
Mhm.
Like, he was so cute with his little like black watch cap, which I have one. It was in the family. Like, I have like an old like like Scottish Navy black watch cap that like the way he wore his hat was very specific to the Navy, not necessarily the American Navy, but definitely the UK.
Yeah.
Regardless, super super adorable. I forgot that Richard Dreyfuss was like really cute back in the day. I was like, oh, he's not the old guy with like the receding hairline and white hair from Mr. Dreyfuss Opus or Mr. Opus, whatever.
Yeah.
Anyways, very cute. I can't remember what I'm saying. I got distracted by Richard Dreyfuss's hotness.
Well, he's like,
my bad.
But he is like, the three of them as characters are incredibly interesting. And again, I really like, I love that they were forced in, the team that made this movie were forced into the situation where they really had to think about like these characters and these moments of like quiet and how each character is responding to all of it. And I think Hooper is a really interesting character because he's like sort of a scientist, but also like a rich kid that's removed and doesn't fully understand. Like,
I was surprised about that. I'm like, why did they add that in?
Yeah.
Like, so he's this like marine biologist or scientist or whatever who goes on these scientific expeditions, and then he's like, actually, I'm a rich playboy.
Well,
I
think that they added that in though for the reason because
we don't fund science.
No, because
we
it's
don't.
a juxtaposition against fishermen who in general are incredibly hardworking and like spend tons and tons of time alone at sea and make very little money off of it. Like, they go out, like, it's
but he was talking about going on scientific expedition. Yeah. And it's like we totally diminished the science by saying he just does it because he's rich. I
guess. Yeah, that's fair.
I was like, why? I'm sorry. I mean, the times that we're in, I rage against emotion overpowering fact.
Yeah.
I like, we can be emotional all we want, but we also should pay attention to science.
Well, I mean, I think they did a nice job with that with him. Like, he comes across as the voice of reason, and you're sort of like throughout it, you're like, why is no one listening
everybody
to this
there
guy?
thinks he's an idiot.
Yeah.
And he even says, he's like, when I leave, like, the police chief is going to be the only one, like, the only sane person on the island. Yeah. He's like, what do you mean? I'm like, no, he's right.
Yeah, because the fishermen have like this, and I think that maybe
it's different.
Maybe this is a cliche, so apologies if you are a fisherman and you're like, what the hell, Katie? But I do think that like there is this, again, like there's a lore around fishing, right? Like, people who do this professionally, like, and it again, like this movie, it takes you sort of back into the like Moby Dick kind of vibe as well, which by the way is from Nantucket, so it's again from this area where it's like it's me, the individual fisherman, and my crew against like these forces of nature and like these giant whales and these sharks and the ocean itself, and that is like very, I think, opposed to the logical scientific mind. Like there is a
superstition
there's
around
a superstition and like a
the ocean.
mythology and an ethos that
Right.
doesn't exist.
You know what?
Yeah.
Rightly so.
Oh, yeah.
If they had listened to Quint at the beginning,
Yeah.
like I love there's this town meeting where all the business owners are like, we shouldn't close the beach, shark or no shark, because my business and my bottom line, which I'm like, okay, so like now you killed your kid. But okay, let's. He draws on the chalkboard at the back of the room a shark with a person in its mouth.
I took a photo of it. Wait, let me see.
And he just nails on a chalkboard to get
You
everybody's
keep
attention.
talking and I'll find the photo because I literally took a photo while I was watching. I was like, this is phenomenal.
So he's supposed to be like that.
Here it is. Can you wait?
Yeah, there we go. The shark that he draws on the chalkboard to get everybody's attention. He's like, this will be horrific.
He just sits
pay
there, like,
me all the money to kill the shark.
waiting for them to respond with that picture on the board.
Yeah. Amazing. Yeah. Such a good scene. But also, like, if I was somebody who lived in this small coastal island area, I would have more respect for the superstitions of the waters, right? And when an Irishman, which I had to Google, I was like, oh wait, his name's Shaw, even though he's British, because the accent was a little wild, but it was supposed to be an Irish fisherman's accent. Which, I mean, granted, could I understand an Irish fisherman? Probably not.
Probably not, yeah.
You know, I have a good accent for ears, but like it only goes so far, right? So if an Irish fisherman told me something about the waters or something that lives in the water, I would automatically believe him because history. All of history, literally all of history tells us.
Yeah.
I'm like, if you're a Viking, a Highlander, or an Irishman, fucking trust them about water, okay? Like, how did anybody on this island be like, I don't know. I think we should just, be vigilantes and try and like build our own coffers. No, man.
Also, like, why, now that I think about it, why would they send why did the police chief go? Like, I understand why Hooper wants to go because he wants to like protect the shark, and I understand why.
Well, I mean, he wanted to stop
the
right shark and not kill an innocent shark.
I know, but I feel like I would have just been like, okay, Quint, we'll pay you the money. We'll see you later. Like, let him just.
Well, obviously, Quint couldn't do it on his own.
I guess.
He got 8.
He where is his team? I don't know. It's
he's a curmudgeon-y Irish fisherman. Does he have a team? Absolutely not. He goes out and rages against the storm himself. I'm pretty sure Joyce wrote several books about it.
True. All right, you can talk about your you can talk about your shark cage now. Terrell is saying that people do use shark cages to study sharks, so it's not.
Yeah, I know,
was his
but
plan?
like,
Was to kill the shark through the shark cage.
Well, he had a harpoon, and first of all, he loads the harpoon after he's in the water.
Yeah.
And like, did you have a solid hold on it? No. So of course you drop it when the shark gets you from behind. Like, because there's zero information that we think sharks are more intelligent than we assume they are. I said sarcastically. They seem to be extremely intelligent. They seem to attack only if they feel that they have reason to.
Yeah.
They don't generally eat people unless they have reason to, which then makes me question the greater scheme of the world that this movie is in. I'm like, what kind of manufacturing or fishing practices does Amityville have? Amity Island have? Like, it's a horror movie, Katie. It's Amityville. Also based on a true story in a real house in also New England.
Yeah,
Just saying, New England, you guys are fucked up.
Yeah.
Like, you guys have so much crazy, creepy shit there. I say that being in Quebec on Indigenous land, where I know they're haunting us because people here did bad shit. They are rightly haunting us here. we earned it. Not my specific ancestors, but definitely white people earned it. But that aside, like, so, like, what pissed the shark off? I have questions. I'm like, I feel like the shark has specific motivation
Well, they
and
say
is targeting people specifically.
they do. Hooper does explain it at one point earlier in the movie,
Yeah.
but then it doesn't really. His explanation doesn't really make sense later in the movie, where it's just like going after them. But
So
then,
the reason I think it's specific is if you look at nowadays,
yeah,
we have this all-female pod of orcas, like orphaned or divorced or widowed orcas. I'm
yeah.
not even joking.
No,
This is
I
for
know,
real
I
life.
know. No.
And these orcas are attacking luxury
Mm-hmm.
yachts because all that these luxury yachts are doing in the ocean is polluting it.
Mm-hmm.
So they are taking out strictly, specifically only
Mm-hmm.
1%er yachts
Yeah,
that are not doing anything other than 1%ing.
yeah.
And possibly submersibles. Not
Again,
funny.
like this movie is just believable enough. I mean, in that
Well,
same
I mean, if we redid Jaws today, it would be called Orcas,
yeah. I mean,
which the
honestly,
boat, ironically, was called Orca.
yeah. I mean, honestly, like whether it's sharks or it's orcas or honestly even whales, like the story of Moby Dick is based on a true story by
Yeah.
which the whale ship Essex was attacked for like still no one even really fully knows why by a sperm whale that just like don't
Probably just polluting the water.
well, I mean, they were whale fishing, so maybe like somehow the whale knew that it was going to be attacked by these people, but like sperm whales had never
Shockingly,
attacked,
I think that's it.
but they had never attacked boats before, and at that point, the Nantucket people had killed like
Well, that
preposterous
bitch
amounts
was
of
like,
whales.
no,
Yeah.
we're done.
Yeah, just like literally just sunk the ship and then like attack
Yeah.
like so. I don't know. It didn't feel like I guess that far off to think that the shark.
I don't know why we as fragile humans
Yeah.
think that shit in the ocean, especially, is not going to just
The
murder
ocean is
us.
scary. The ocean.
The ocean
Summer
itself
camps.
is murdering
There are all
us.
these things that are
Like,
scary. Yeah.
oh my god! Like water is one of the things that I'm like, we have no control over it. It's gonna do what it's gonna do.
Yeah.
And very bad timing.
Yeah.
But yeah, we need to have a little more respect
Yeah.
for Mother Nature, so to
a lot
speak.
more respect. A lot more respect.
Yeah, I was a little facetious on my little, but but yeah, no, it's like I was saying earlier, how when we were swimming in the lake and we're like, oh, like the only thing that'll get us is the Loch Ness monster. You know what? I'm not discounting it.
Yeah. These days
I'm
you
not-
just never know.
I know the lake where our cottage is. We have like it's in the mountains, and it's several lakes that connect, both above ground and underground. There are underwater throughways. Like I've seen the topography for it or whatever it's called, and I'm like, you know what? Nessie could pop in and out. I'm not gonna mess around with this shit. Incidentally, it's called Moose Lake, so the one thing you should fear about this lake
Yeah.
most is the moose.
Are the moose,
And nobody believed me until last weekend. I wasn't there, but all the kids came running, screaming out of the lake because there was a giant fucking moose in the water that scared the shit out of everybody. And I was like, yeah,
Beware
yeah.
the moose.
I've seen it before, and a couple other people have experienced. So moose, just as a disclaimer, are the only other creatures that attack for fun, like for
Mhm.
sport, other than humans that we
Yeah.
know of.
The
They
sequel to
they
Jaws
attack,
could be moose.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
The Canadian version of Jaws is
Horns.
moose.
It's just called Horns, and it's all about moose. Oh my gosh.
Oh gosh.
Well,
But
we
yeah,
need,
so
we need to discuss this. So
Yeah.
Paul posted this fact, which is just wild to me. So over 67 million people in the United States went to see this film when it was initially released in 1975, just under a
Oh my
third
gosh.
of the country's total population at the time, making it the first summer blockbuster. This makes me this reminds me of when we did Pride and Prejudice, the miniseries,
Yeah.
the BBC miniseries, where like basically all of the UK was like,
it broke
we're
boundaries.
busy, we're watching this
Yeah.
miniseries.
So
Yeah.
apparently, opening weekend,
Mhm.
In 1975,
Mhm.
this movie grossed over $7 million.
Good for
And by
them.
the end of its run, 470 million.
Yeah. And honestly, like
Like,
launched Steven
that's
Spielberg as who we know
crazy.
today. I mean, launched,
Film god that he is.
I mean, we haven't even really, and we probably don't even have enough time to be able to fully, appreciate and just sing the praises of John Williams as well as just like, I mean, the
Yeah.
music in this movie had there not been the music that there was in this movie, it would not have been the same movie either. Like such like beautiful minimalism, like it's literally two notes, it's just two notes, but it's so like iconic. Everyone knows the music from this movie, whether or not you've even seen it, however many times you've seen it. It gets you and means something. We were talking earlier today, I was hanging out with Doc and Mike, who
Hi, Doc.
who if you watch the show at all, you've seen in past episodes, both of them. And we were talking a little bit about this movie, and they were saying that like even when the trailer for this movie came out, like it was literally just like the music and like these like very
Like
quick
kicky
scenes.
feet in water.
And that was like honestly scary enough. Like I think
Spielberg almost rejected it because he thought it was too simple, but then changed his mind kind of
Good
last
for
minute.
him.
Like,
Can you imagine?
thank God. What a genius to
What
be
a
like,
genius,
at
yeah.
first he's like, no. And then like to meet those two minds to meet and be like, you know what? This is it. This is what we're going to do.
Yep. Yeah.
Crazy.
Just absolutely, absolutely
Imagine.
crazy.
Oh, you know what's really funny? So not funny because it's actually terrifying. So apparently watching movies like Jaws specifically, or any horror movie, suspense thriller, even action films can increase your resting heart rate, your metabolic heart rate, so you burn calories. Jaws is famous for being the movie that makes a human burn the most calories. You
yeah.
can burn almost over 150 calories watching the movie Jaws, which
Holy.
like that's like walking for a couple of hours, 3 hours. That's like going for a jog. That's like running a marathon. That's like, that's a full workout, is 150 calories, or you could just watch Jaws. The only downside is it does trigger your fight or flight, so then you have to like bring down your sympathetic nerve system. Like, have some coping mechanisms to go with your calorie burn.
Ice cream. Immediately eat ice cream and gain all the calories back. Yeah.
Hugs and ice cream.
Hugs and ice cream. And I'm with Josh. We really should do an entire episode on John Williams. His music is just, I mean, really defined continues to define a generation.
It defines filmmaking.
Filmmaking. Yeah, really. I mean,
it like overall, not even
overall,
like
just this was the first movie to reach the coveted $100 million mark in theatrical rentals, which is 45% of the box office gross, and the highest grossing of all time movie in the United States until Star Wars Episode 4: A New Hope in 1977. I mean, really, like, there's a million and one things that we could say about this movie, but in the end, like, groundbreaking, incredible, stands the test of time. Like, again, this movie came out 50 years ago. I watched it
preteen.
Yeah.
Loved it.
Like
no
both
complaints.
My kids thought it was fantastic. Like just engrossed with the entire thing.
Also, your teenager who's like probably the smartest person walking into a room, period, next to maybe your husband is like, no, this is a great movie.
Yeah, it was a great movie.
Which I love. I love that because like he will obviously have looked up, like, I know all the facts about sharks and this movie's great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Not only sharks, but he's looked up all the facts about sharks, movie making, soundtracks, film editing. Like, he's looked it all up and he's decided he likes this movie.
Yeah, it really is. Like, all of the questions we typically ask when we're doing this show, like it holds up. It's still captivating. I think it'll continue to hold up years and years and decades to come. And again, like, part of it is just luck in that, like, they didn't do as much as they wanted to. So much of it is the acting.
The robot
and the music.
didn't work.
All of the things that went wrong ended up being brilliant.
They picked the music.
Yeah, absolutely.
They had to do ad lib. And
I
some
think
of the ad lib scenes were the best ever.
It also not to be too English majory about the entire thing, but it does come down to, and you said it at the very beginning, like it's this story where the people are really in many ways the bad guys, and you're talking about like, you know, capitalism and this like hunger for money versus like the, you know, the safety and security of the families, and against kind of nature, like
It's
man
the
against nature.
short-sightedness.
Yep.
And I think especially in the past 5 years, we've seen policymakers and their short-sightedness.
Yep.
And how that is having and is going to continually have these long-term effects. And we get like this snapshot of it from 1975. They're telling the same story in a different way of what we experience in real life constantly.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of brilliant on like a bigger scale of just human existence, you know, like of society and political, you know, like anthropology, and like it's so much bigger than it meant to be.
Yeah.
It captures human nature in a way that it probably wasn't intending to do. They probably just wanted a scary shark movie to draw audiences in, and it ended up being like a socio-political commentary that is still relevant and will always be relevant through human existence.
Because there is that moment in the movie. I don't know if you felt the same way about this, but there's this moment where they, you know, they lie and tell everyone that they've killed this shark, but no one really is believing it, and the beach is crowded.
They know they're wrong.
Yeah, they know they're wrong. It's 4th of July weekend, and everyone is on the beach, and no one is going into the water. And there's this scene where like the, you know, smarmy like mayor and his lackeys basically are like, get into the water, like someone needs to be in the water to like convince everyone else. And these like, I don't remember if they were parents or grandparents, but these, you know, guardians of these kids basically like super nervous, like you can feel their nerves coming like off of them through the TV at you, like drag these kids into the water, and it just feels like gross and horrifying and horrible. And like it's that moment that takes this movie from being just a horror movie or just a monster movie or like just a blah blah blah, you know, summer blockbuster like money making movie to this to that level of like, oh, like this feels bad. Where I feel like,
and then they get one of the kids killed, like, and then they blame the sheriff, who was the only person that said we're doing the wrong thing.
We should close the beat. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's a visceral feeling in this one that I don't think exists in a lot of the like. There's a lot of those other movies, right, where it's like it's a, you know, Twister, or it's a volcano, or it's a like what Day After Tomorrow, like all of these movies where they're like, you know, human greed has caused, you know, huge climate issues that have basically destroyed the world. But I don't know, there's something about this movie and that scene in particular where you're just like, oh, like it just got me, like where you're just like, oh man, like watching the fear of that family, and yet they did it anyway, which is just sickening, like to watch. And
it's funny you say that. And I just saw yesterday a great interview with David Suzuki, which if you're Canadian, you know exactly who that is. And if you're not, look him up. He is he's like the Canadian Bill Nye. He's so cool. Yeah. He's the coolest guy in the world. And they were asking him, I think it was on CBC News or CTV News, I can't remember. And they were asking him like about climate change and global warming, like, is it too late? He's like, yeah, it was too late like decades ago. Like we made this decision well before these generations even came up. Like it's so beyond over. We're just planning for like how the younger generations will survive of those who are going to survive this. Like we made the wrong choice.
Yeah. We chose wrong.
But I mean, he does also put a positive spin on it because he's David Suzuki. Like there's hope, but you know, no, let the sharks take me.
The sharks take. Well,
it's like the girl at the beginning of the movie when she like gets thrashed around by the shark, and then she finally like has like a small reprieve, and she grabs onto the boy, and she's like holding on, and she's like screaming, "Help me!" I'm like, for what? What's left? Like, what's left? The shark just thrashed you around. The water is red. Like, what are we
What?
saving at this
Why
point?
did it take the guy so long to like? He was like chasing right behind her.
He was
like,
passed out drunk.
and then
he
he
passed out.
and then, oh yeah, I guess, and then he just passes out. He leaves. Yeah. it's
Yeah,
just
he
like-
was like, oh, I'm too drunk to even get myself
Yeah.
undressed. Blah. Passes out. Oh, girls beware. You
Well,
are your own hero.
Exactly. Well, we've gotten to the time of the evening where we are going to jump into our rating. If you're hanging out with us live, definitely let us know what you think of this movie. If you haven't seen it, have we convinced you that you should give it a try? I don't think other than Josh, I think most people
Yes, Josh.
most people have seen this one. Josh, totally fair. He's like, I don't want to see it. I don't want to see this one. Yeah,
But it's iconic.
It is an iconic movie. And not as honestly, like not as scary or hard to watch as I
No.
remember it when when I was younger. Like as an adult, I was like, no, this isn't actually all that difficult to watch. But yeah, let us know what your ratings are.
And also, we know more about sharks now. We know that somebody pissed the shark off, and that's why he did what he did.
Mhm. Exactly. The bad guys are definitely
Some
the
human
people.
made him mad. It's
Paul-
not the shark's
Paul's
fault.
going with 4. Paul's going with 4 sharks. You could rate in sharks. You can rate in blood. You can rate in waves.
Beach balls?
Beach balls. You can rate boats. We bigger boats. So we're gonna need those bigger boats. Well, we unsurprisingly, probably to most of you, this for us was a 5 potato. This was a 5 potato movie. I just
It
think
has everything.
even if this is like not your genre and like not
No.
your favorite movie, this is a beautifully produced movie and continues to
The cinematography,
Continues
the
to hold up.
soundtrack,
Yep.
the dialogue, the improv.
flawlessly remastered, by the way, too. Like if you catch
Yes.
like it looks like literally it's perfect. Yeah,
The acting
yep, the
is
story, everything.
my gosh.
really.
and the social commentary, which it wasn't going for, but that it has.
Mhm.
I mean, maybe you know what? It's Steven Spielberg. Maybe he was kind of
Yeah, he is.
cheekily adding it into it. He's not shy to, make the movie a little bit bigger. I
Mhm.
mean, even look at Goonies. It's a huge
Yeah.
social commentary on the recession of the 80s
True.
/ every recession.
True.
I take it back.
I take it-
He knew what he was
I'll
doing.
take it back.
Of course he knew what he was doing.
Mm.
He's Steven Spielberg. Love him.
He knew
What
what
a-
he was doing. The question ChatGPT asks us is this one that you would rewind again and again or fast forward through the shark parts? It's like, well,
Oh my gosh, rewind.
rewind. There's no fast forwarding in this one. I think the I hesitate to even use the word awkwardness, but there's something with
Oi!
the awkwardness of those like quiet like moments of it that make it scarier in a better movie. So yeah, you don't want to fast forward any of it.
It's like Hitchcock, like Psycho.
Yes,
In that
yeah.
it's scarier because of the mundane,
Because of the quiet, yeah,
moment.
exactly.
It makes it so much more suspenseful than it
Yeah.
needed to be.
Yeah.
Like it could have just been a whole bunch of jump scares and probably would have had a similar initial reaction.
Yeah,
But it has a staying power because of that Hitchcockian,
yeah,
quiet.
I
Oh.
agree. We've got an
I
update from
love it.
Paul. Paul has 4 sharks and a swimmer. Sean is giving us 3. It's still a lot of fun, but has aged. All right, fair enough.
Yeah.
And Kathy
I can
gives
see
it
that.
5. So yeah, we were in with Kathy. Well, I
mean,
thoroughly
definitely the
enjoyed.
Fashones have aged.
Yeah, it definitely feels. I will say, like it's obviously a 70s movie in that the parents don't seem to care about the children. There's tons of smoking in it. What else can we say? That's very 70s.
Don't smoke in the autopsy
Yeah.
room. I was like, oh, that's dated.
I did absolutely love the scene, which we didn't talk about, but the scene where Hooper comes over to Brody's house to like convince him that he needs to.
He brings the wine.
He brings he brings 2 bottles of wine because he doesn't know what they've cooked, and he opens the bottle of wine, takes
tumbler of
the full
red.
glass, mixes it with whatever the hell was in his glass, like so it's like watered down or milked down. I don't even know.
Oh my gosh, is it Coca-Cola?
Maybe it was
Is it
Coke,
Coca-Cola and red wine, which
think
makes me
so.
think of It's
Yeah.
Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Don't try mixing Coca-Cola and red wine. I
It might
did
have
that
been.
once. If you mix it in the can of Coca-Cola, I don't know, there's some sort of chemical reaction. It's a fun night until the next morning.
Oh,
Don't try
do
it. Or
Don't do, this
do, but don't.
Yeah, he mixes
do
it with
not
something,
recommend.
and then he steals like the leftover plate and just eats all the food. That's
Yeah.
probably my favorite scene in this entire movie.
It's a good scene.
It's just
Yeah.
completely ridiculous.
I love the police chief going through his book and being like, are they like 2,000-3,000 years old? And I'm like,
Yeah,
that's me.
His research book. That would have been me, straight to the library. And
Yeah.
I'm like, well, I need to learn about sharks. Yeah, need to learn
Like,
about
I am
sharks.
Googling everything about this.
Yeah, Kathy nails it. She says the scare is over what's to come, not in what you see. Absolutely. Well,
Yeah.
on that note, we have had way too much fun. We are over our time. What should we do next, Nat? What's next week for us?
I don't know. Any
We've been talking
suggestions?
a little bit. So I do really want to rewatch Titanic. I know it's a big investment, but that one's been on our list for a while.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
I think the last time I watched it, I was babysitting your lop-eared bunnies,
Mhm.
and then we had like a 40 some odd degree, which is like 110 to 120 degree weather
Mhm.
here, heat wave, and half of them died. And then I was so upset that I couldn't stop crying watching the movie, but it was because the bunnies all died in the heat wave. I
Yeah.
was the worst person on the planet.
So we could make Nat cry. We
Still
could watch
affects me.
Titanic and make Nat
The poor
cry.
bunnies.
What else? Yeah, we have to
Random.
review. I know we've had a bunch of recommendations and such come in. There's a few like fundamental ones that we still have not done. Well, we should do Back to the Future as well because it's the anniversary year for that this year.
Yes.
So maybe one of those two, or
And
maybe
Michael J.
something
Fox,
completely
love.
different. Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
I love Back to the Future. Especially, I like Back to the Future 2 the best, I think is
I like 3 the best, which I know is not.
the Wild Wild
I
West.
like the Wild Wild West one the best. It's totally nostalgic for me. Yep.
No, it's 2 for me. I want hoverboards and high top sneakers.
And Josh is reminding us that we did promise we would do Batman Forever, and I did also promise we would do a Goofy movie. So those
Did
ones
we
are
not
also-
do Batman Forever?
No, we did.
In my mind, we've already done it.
Josh, Nat has checked that one off in her mind. We'll have to revisit it. We'll have to revisit that one.
Oops.
All
Like,
right.
I was positive we did it.
We'll
I
take
love
it
Batman
offline.
Forever.
We'll get organized.
Unpopular opinion. Love Batman Forever. I think it's an homage to Adam West. Autumn West. Oh
Autumn
my God,
West.
Natalie.
Autumn West.
My
Oh.
enunciation.
Well, on that
Too
note,
much humaning.
thank you for hanging out with us. Thank you for
Bye,
chatting
guys.
all things Jaws. 50 years is wild to think that movie has just been standing the test of time for that long is incredible.
Scare your children.
Yeah, Scare Your Children holds up. Great family movie. That's my piece of advice for this year. And who knows? Maybe we'll redo Groundhog Day now that I want to rewatch it on the other side of visiting Woodstock in real life.
I feel like we're gonna redo that one
Yeah.
every year.
We'll just redo it every year. Yeah, just because why not? I love it. Well, thank you for hanging out with us, and we will see you all in the next episode. And please, 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 if you like this show, swing on over to the VHSClubPod.com. You can sign up for our email newsletter where we send updates. We're going to start sending more fun emails as well. But right now, we just send one a week that lets you know about the episode. And you can leave voicemails. You can rate episodes. You can see everything, all the past stuff there. So definitely swing on by there. But thanks to everyone for supporting the show. We appreciate it.
And leave us a voicemail.
Yeah, we love voicemails. Leave us a voicemail. We'll see you all next week. Thanks, everyone.
King and Nat, rocking the scene